Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Derek Hansen never thought of himself as the suspicious type. At 39, he'd been a bank manager for nearly a decade, building a life around numbers, predictability, and trust. Trust in the clients who signed contracts at his desk. Trust in the employees he supervised. And above all, trust in Brianna, his wife of 6 years. She was a tattoo artist, working at a busy studio downtown, with a vibrant energy that contrasted with his methodical routine. Derek liked that. He liked coming home to stories about eccentric clients, sketches scattered across the kitchen table, and the faint smell of fresh ink still clinging to her hands. They didn't have kids. It was a mutual decision. Brianna said she wasn't ready yet, and Derek respected that. Maybe someday. For now, their life worked. Or at least, that's what he believed, until that fall Tuesday when everything fell apart. Derek traveled regularly. It was part of the job. Corporate trainings, meetings with regional managers, audits at partner branches. He was out of the house 3 or 4 days every 2 weeks, and Brianna had always handled it fine. She had her routine at the studio, her friends, her independence. But over the last 2 months, Derek started noticing small changes. Nothing obvious. Just subtle things that piled up like grains of sand. Brianna was more distant. She took longer to reply to his messages, something she'd never done before. When he called at night, she seemed rushed, eager to hang up. And every time he mentioned the possibility of coming home earlier from a trip, she reacted strangely. Nervous. Almost defensive. Derek tried to ignore it. Maybe she was just stressed at work. Maybe he was being paranoid. But something inside him, a quiet, persistent voice, told him something was wrong. The night before his 4-day trip to a banking conference, Derek was packing in the bedroom when Brianna appeared in the doorway. She leaned against the frame, arms crossed, and said casually, "Oh, before I forget, my cousin Jenna's gonna stay here for a few days. She's looking for a job in town and needs a place to crash." Derek looked up, surprised. Jenna? The Jenna from Seattle? Brianna nodded, glancing away toward her phone. Yeah. She's kind of lost, you know. I thought it'd be nice to help out. Derek didn't suspect a thing. He knew Jenna. They'd met a few times at family gatherings. A friendly woman with long brown hair and an easy laugh. It made sense she'd stay with them. Sure, Derek said, going back to folding a shirt. No problem. Brianna smiled, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. She quickly left the room, and Derek stood there, holding the shirt, feeling that familiar unease in his chest. Something was off. He just didn't know what. What Brianna didn't know was that Derek had installed a security camera in the garage 3 weeks earlier. Not because he suspected her, but because a neighbor 2 houses down had been burglarized. The news spread fast through the neighborhood, and Derek, always cautious, decided to act. He bought a camera with good resolution, night vision, and motion alerts that sent notifications straight to his phone. He installed it discreetly in a corner of the garage, angled toward the side door leading into the kitchen. He tested the system quickly, making sure it worked, but never mentioned it to Brianna. He planned to install more cameras at the front and back of the house and present it all as a complete security upgrade. He just hadn't had the time. And now, sitting on the plane headed to the conference, Derek had no idea that camera would change his life forever. The conference was boring. Talks on risk management, new compliance protocols, client retention strategies. Derek sat in the 3rd row of the auditorium, mechanically taking notes, when his phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it for a few minutes, but the buzzing kept going. Curious, he unlocked the screen and saw a string of notifications from the security camera app, motion detected at 10:18 p.m. Derek frowned. It was almost 10:30. Brianna was probably just getting home after dinner with Jenna. He opened the app, expecting to see her car pulling into the driveway. What he saw made him forget where he was. A black sedan, unfamiliar, pulled into the garage. The license plate was clear on the screen. Derek's heart jumped. A man got out, tall, clean-shaven, wearing a leather jacket. He walked with confidence toward the side door of the garage, like he knew exactly where he was going. And then Brianna appeared. Derek froze, the phone trembling slightly in his hands. Brianna wore a short, tight black dress, one he didn't recognize. She was made up, her hair loose over her shoulders. She smiled at the man. And then she hugged him. It wasn't a friendly hug. It was long, intimate, familiar. When they pulled apart, the man cupped her face with both hands and kissed her. It wasn't a quick peck. It was deep, slow, unhurried. Brianna didn't pull away. She kissed him back. Derek felt his stomach churn. The people around him in the auditorium were clapping for the speaker, but he heard nothing. Just the blood pounding in his temples. He rewound the video, paused on the license plate, took a screenshot. Then he watched it again. The man slid his arm around Brianna's waist, and they walked into the house. The garage door closed. The recording continued, showing only the empty garage and the black sedan parked where Derek's car should have been. Derek left the auditorium. He needed to breathe. He needed to think. He walked to the bathroom, locked himself in a stall, and sat on the toilet lid, phone still in hand. He opened his browser and typed the sedan's license plate into a public records database he knew. He paid $15 for the lookup, and less than 2 minutes later, he had a name, Trent Bowman, 36. Derek copied the name and searched it on Instagram. Trent's profile was public. Photos of tattoos, lots of tattoos. He was a tattoo artist. Derek scrolled and felt his stomach drop even further. There she was. Brianna. In multiple photos. Behind the scenes at the studio. At parties. At bars. Always smiling. Always close to Trent. The captions were casual, but the comments from followers were ambiguous. Fire emojis. Cute couple. So shippable. Derek locked his phone and pressed his palms against his eyes. He wanted to scream. He wanted to break something. But he couldn't. He was in a hotel bathroom, miles from home, and his wife was with another man in the bed they shared. Derek didn't sleep that night. He went back to his hotel room, lay on the bed, and stared at the ceiling, the phone beside his pillow. He reopened the camera app over and over, watching the video again and again, as if hoping the scene would change. But it didn't. It always ended the same way, Brianna and Trent walking into the house together. Derek thought about calling her. About confronting her over the phone. But no, he wanted to see her face. He wanted her to know he knew. He wanted answers, but above all, he wanted her to feel the weight of her betrayal right in front of him. At 4 a.m., Derek made a decision. He pulled out his laptop, logged into the airline's website, and rebooked his flight. He canceled the last panel of the conference, invented a family emergency, and booked a seat on the 11:45 p.m. flight. He'd be home in the early hours. Without warning. Without giving Brianna time to hide anything. Derek closed the laptop, lay back down, and for the first time in hours, he felt something besides pain. He felt anger. And determination. The flight felt endless. Derek couldn't read. Couldn't watch anything. He just sat by the window, staring into nothing, mentally rehearsing what he'd say. Part of him still hoped there was an explanation, that Trent was just a friend, that the kiss was a misunderstanding. But he knew he was lying to himself. There was no misunderstanding. No innocent explanation. Brianna was cheating on him. In their house. In their bed. While he was away working, trusting her, she was with another man. Derek clenched his fists, his nails digging into his palms. He took a deep breath, trying to hold back the rage building inside him like a wave about to break. The plane landed at 2:40 a.m. Derek grabbed his bag, hurried through customs, and went straight to the parking lot. He got in his car, started the engine, and drove in silence down empty streets. The city was asleep. Streetlights cast orange circles on the wet asphalt from a recent rain. Derek drove slowly to his street. When he turned the corner, he saw the black sedan parked in the garage. His stomach twisted again. He pulled over 2 houses down, turned off the engine, and sat there for a moment, hands on the wheel, heart pounding. Then he grabbed his bag, stepped out of the car, and walked to the house. The front door was locked. He quietly unlocked it, stepped inside, and shut the door behind him without a sound. The house was silent. Just the low hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. Derek climbed the stairs, each step creaking faintly under his weight. He paused at the top, listening. Nothing. He walked to the master bedroom. The door was slightly open. He pushed it slowly. Brianna was asleep. But she wasn't alone. Trent Bowman was lying beside her, his back to the door, one arm flung over the pillow. Derek felt a wave of heat rise up his neck. He walked into the room, crossed to the wall, and flipped on the light. Brianna jolted awake, blinking in confusion. When her eyes focused on Derek standing at the foot of the bed, she went pale. Trent woke up with her movement, turned over, and saw Derek. For a second, no one spoke. The silence was deafening. Then Derek spoke, his voice low, cold, laced with sarcasm. So this is Jenna? Funny, I remember her differently. I thought she had longer hair, and was a woman. Brianna tried to speak, but the words tumbled out jumbled and senseless. Derek, I can explain, this isn't. Derek raised his hand, cutting her off. No. You can't explain. There is no explanation. He pulled his phone from his pocket, unlocked it, and opened the security camera video. He turned the screen toward her. I saw it all, Brianna. Every second. The kiss. You both walking in. Everything. Brianna covered her face with her hands, tears filling her eyes. Trent, on the other hand, tried to stay composed. He sat up in bed, pulling on only boxers and a t-shirt. Look, man, this is complicated, but, Derek took a step forward, and Trent instinctively pulled back. Complicated? Derek laughed, but there was no humor in it. Complicated is planning a mortgage. Complicated is dealing with a federal audit. This isn't complicated, Trent. This is betrayal. This is you sleeping with another man's wife, in his house, in his bed, while he's away working. Trent tried to respond, but Derek cut him off again. You work at the same studio as her, right? Trent Bowman, tattoo artist. I know who you are. I've seen your photos with her on Instagram. I've seen the comments. I've seen everything. Trent swallowed hard. I think I should go. Derek blocked the door with his body. You're not going anywhere until I'm done talking. His voice was calm, but there was an unmistakable threat in it that made Trent freeze. You destroyed a family today, Trent. 6 years of marriage. 6 years of trust. And for what? Because you wanted to sleep with another man's wife? Because you thought you could? Derek took another step forward. I hope it was worth it. Because when I walk out of here, I'm making sure everyone knows exactly who you are and what you did. Brianna got out of bed, desperate. Derek, please, listen to me. I made a mistake. A terrible one. But I still love you. We can fix this. Derek turned to her, and the expression on his face made her shrink back. "You love me?" He laughed again, bitter. "You love me so much you brought another man into our house? Into our bed? Lied about your cousin Jenna coming to stay just so you had an excuse if someone saw his car? You planned this, Brianna. This wasn't a mistake. It was a choice." She started crying, sobbing. "I felt alone. You're always traveling, always busy. I just wanted to feel desired again." Derek shook his head, the anger giving way to something worse, disappointment. "So it's my fault? I work to support this house, this life you love so much, and it's my fault." He took a step back, away from the door. "Get out, Trent. Now." Trent didn't wait. He grabbed his pants off the floor, slipped them on, and practically ran out of the room. Derek heard the front door slam seconds later, followed by the sound of the sedan's engine starting and driving away. Brianna sat on the edge of the bed, crying, hands covering her face. Derek stood there, looking at her, feeling a deep, almost paralyzing sadness. This was the woman he'd married. The woman he trusted more than anyone else in the world. And she'd betrayed him. "I'll sleep on the couch," Derek said, his voice empty. "Tomorrow, we talk about the divorce." Brianna lifted her head, red-eyed. "Derek, no. Please. We can go to therapy, we can." "No," Derek interrupted. "No therapy can fix this, Brianna. You killed the trust. Without trust, there's no marriage." He left the room, walked down the stairs, and lay down on the living room sofa, still dressed, his bag tossed on the floor beside him. He didn't sleep. He just lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to Brianna's muffled sobs upstairs. The next morning, Derek woke early, took a shower in the downstairs bathroom, and put on a clean suit. He made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and called his lawyer. He explained everything in detail, the security footage, the screenshots, all of it. The lawyer, an experienced, pragmatic man, said Derek had a solid case for divorce based on adultery, and the evidence would make the process easier. Derek thanked him, hung up, and drank his coffee in silence. Brianna came down a little while later, eyes swollen, face pale. She tried to speak, but Derek raised his hand. "I don't want to hear excuses. I just wanted to let you know I've contacted my lawyer. You'll receive the divorce papers in the next few days. I suggest you hire one too." Brianna sat at the table, head down. "What about the house?" "We'll sell it. Split the assets according to the law. But with the proof I have, don't expect to walk away with half of everything." Derek finished his coffee and stood up. "I'll stay at a hotel while we sort this out. I don't want to sleep here anymore." But Derek didn't stop there. He wasn't naturally vengeful, but he wasn't stupid either. He went back to Trent's Instagram and did a deeper search. He found out Trent was married. His wife's name was Angela, and they had a 3-year-old son. Derek felt a pang of guilt, but pushed it away quickly. Angela deserved to know the truth, just as he had. He downloaded the security footage, edited it down to only the relevant parts, the kiss, the two of them entering the house, and sent it as a direct message to Angela, along with a brief note. He didn't wait for a reply. He just sent it and blocked her. 2 weeks later, Derek heard through mutual friends that Angela had filed for divorce. Trent lost custody of his son and was forced to move. More than that, the story spread through the tattoo studio where he and Brianna worked. Clients started avoiding him. Some even left negative online reviews mentioning personal lack of ethics. The studio, worried about its reputation, asked Trent to leave. He ended up taking a job in a neighboring town, far from everyone and everything. Brianna, meanwhile, suffered consequences too. She lost several clients, especially married women who didn't want to be served by someone who'd cheated so blatantly. The story had leaked, and in a tight-knit community of tattoo artists and creatives, gossip traveled fast. The divorce process moved quickly. Derek presented all the evidence, and the judge ruled in his favor on asset division. He kept most of the investments, and the house sold for a fair price. Brianna tried, a few times, to reach out, long text messages begging for forgiveness, pleading for a second chance. Derek never replied. He blocked her number the moment the divorce was final. There was nothing left to say. He bought a smaller, modern, but comfortable apartment in a different neighborhood. He started therapy, not to get over Brianna, he'd already moved on, but to process the anger and disappointment he still carried. His therapist, a calm, perceptive man, helped him understand that the betrayal wasn't a reflection of him, but of Brianna. That he hadn't failed. That he'd done everything right. And that sometimes, people just make selfish choices. Derek returned to work with renewed focus. He was promoted to regional manager 6 months after the divorce, a promotion he'd been chasing for years. He traveled even more now, but he didn't mind. The work kept him busy, kept him sane. He started going out again, meeting new people. He wasn't looking for a serious relationship, not yet, but he was open to the possibility. He learned to trust again, but differently. More cautious. More aware. He'd never be naive again. A year after the separation, Derek sat on his apartment balcony, sipping a cold beer and watching the sunset. He thought about Brianna. Not with anger, not with sadness. Just with quiet acceptance. She'd made a choice. And he'd made another. He chose not to tolerate betrayal. He chose not to pretend everything was fine. He chose not to stay in a marriage built on lies. And above all, he chose to reclaim his dignity. Derek finished his beer, set the empty bottle on the table, and smiled. Not a bitter smile, but one of relief. He was free. Free from the lies. Free from the pain. Free to start over. And that, he realized, was the best revenge of all. Not destroying Brianna's or Trent's lives, even though they'd reaped the consequences of their actions, but rebuilding his own. With dignity. With purpose. With the certainty that he'd done the right thing. Derek stood up, walked inside, and closed the balcony door behind him. The past was behind him. And for the first time in a long time, the future felt promising. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.